I know, it has been a while, but we're back, baby. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. You know who it is by now.
Jimothy.
So I haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh in about 3 weeks, close to a month, and I decided to reintroduce myself back into the game by going to a 256 man regional, which was a very rude awakening. Nonetheless, I think I did pretty well considering the meta is full of just tier elements basically, and it was a bit of an eye-opener on just the power creep of the game and how powerful some of the decks are. Now I'm going to leave my matchups on screen for you guys just to have a look at. It was 8 rounds, 256 players. I believe I finished with finished in 68th place. Like I said, I put that on the screen for you guys, and it was 8 rounds of grueling dueling, which I thoroughly enjoyed, to be honest, because I haven't played it in a while. Some of my notable matchups were against Sprite and Telements. I went with Branded Despia, Bestials, and it was quite interesting to say the least. I went with a bit of a weirder build, a bit of a going second build, because hand traps were a thing which I just didn't bother including in a Branded Despia deck, and I don't feel like they're as strong as they could be at this present time, especially with how Telements are working at the moment. So I went with a more going second, just board breaker style Despia deck, and then just obviously control the game from there. And it kind of did me well in certain situations. It was a little bit naive of me, I think, especially with Bestials in the format, and especially how I decided to play the Rarlock, which I'll show in my deck profile in a moment, ladies and gents. But I think I played Sprite round 1. Round 2, I played Branded Eldritch, which I managed to win. Again, I've main decked evenly matched, which I'll obviously go through in a moment. And I think one of my most notable matchups were, I've written it down here, was my loss to Telements. And it was actually a bounty duelist. He had a bounty on his head after, I think it was the round after me. You could have potentially beat him and won a pack of sleeves. But the board that he set up, I know it's quite typical of what Tillman set up at the moment, but it was basically an FTK, and I had a really good hand as well. He set up Baron de Fleur, I think Rukalos, Counter Trap, Imperm in the form of Suliak, as well as just Havness in hand. It was just crazy how much, how far the deck went, being untouched basically. So very interesting. But like I said, ladies and gents, I'm not going to waffle on it too much. I'm going to show you my profile, or the list that I took, and just talk you through some of my reasonings behind it, because there was a lot of Branded Despia there, which was quite a relief, but it was also a bit of an eye-opener. So yeah, let's get straight into the list. Okay, ladies and gents, let's get straight into the list. So I played Branded Despia. So starting us off, just as you would expect, triple Aluba basically, just for the search. I also played a triple Tragedy. Now the reason I maxed out on Tragedy is because I'm playing Allure of Darkness, and I wanted to kind of see this in combination with Tragedy, just to be able to kind of resolve Allure and get another plus off it basically. So Allure becomes like a pot of greed then, rather than like a break even, but it kind of worked out. Also had one Ad Libitum. I love this card. Card's absolutely fantastic. Then I had triple Fallen of Albaz. Now, contrary to popular belief, I actually like playing the 3, especially with the Bestial package in here. If you're ever in a bit of a pinch and you still got Albaz in deck, you can just add it off the Magnum, I believe. But nevertheless, the 3 definitely came up, especially in the grind game. I think I played against Kashtira where he was like banishing my Albaz face down, so just having another 2 in deck or another 1 in deck just to be able to play definitely served its purpose. So I did like the 3 Albaz. I also played the 1 Albion the Shrouded Dragon. I opened this 3 times in a row. It's crazy. It's basically Upstart Goblin. I always tend to dump Branded Opening off this, just because it kind of protects your fusions, and once you've got an established board, you don't really want to be resolving Branded Opening because it's costly. Do you know what I mean? You've got to discard as well as to be able to activate its effect. So yeah, it is what it is. Well, I say discard to activate effects. It's discard as part of the effect, so it's a 2-for-1 basically. And then Blazing Cartesia, ladies and gents, this was actually a really good card. I was considering playing this at 2 just because I wanted to see a lot more. It gives you an infinite grind, and it allows you to play under like anti-spell fragrance and still be able to get some of your fusion summons off, particularly Albion, which can then obviously banish from grave depending on your setup. I wanted to see a lot more. You could dump it off branded fusion, which is probably what I was doing most of the time. Well, I was doing that quite a lot of the time if I weren't trying to go for the raw lock, which is something that I was playing, which is in the side deck. But I definitely value this card, and this probably will start creeping up in price once people realize its usefulness. Obviously Telements are playing it now, and they're going into Baron using this as well as fusion summoning the Rukalos, so definitely a card that you want to keep in mind, ladies and gents. I decided to go for the triple Edging chain as opposed to the triple patchwork, mainly because I found I was ending up with too much patchworks without being able to resolve it, and I felt like the monster was a little bit more important. So seeing him, whether it's a discard off Lubellion or just polymerization, you can always search the patchwork, but if you've got both patchworks in graveyard, it's still quite useful just to have in your hand, just for whatever reason, even resolving Albaz. And then I played a very small bestial package. Now I don't own Lubellion, but if I did, I'd definitely up the count of this. This seemed to work pretty well in my opinion. Juice Worm and Magnamot are just crazy. Just a big DD Crow basically, and it just allows you to play without having to fusion summon, and it disrupts your opponent. I think against my branded Eldritch player, he set up a full board. It was crazy. He set up like he had 4 back row. He resolved branded fusion. He had a Mirror Jade on board, and I managed to banish the Albion just before it got to end phase, and yeah, it basically stopped his follow-up play. So very powerful cards. I do own a playset of each, and I would recommend putting them in. They don't fit in every deck, but in Despia, these cards are just fantastic. So that was it for the monsters. So onto the spells, as you would expect, they're just regular branded package. We played triple branded fusion, nothing needs to be said. Triple branded opening, again, nothing needs to be said. This was always what I was dumping off Albion. I didn't actually side this out because it did allow you to play, and it can almost be a very useful discard in effect because of its graveyard effect. Played double branded in red, as you would expect. 1 branded loss, again. I've seen Albion so much, and then being able to just resolve branded loss to search either Albaz or Cartesia, which is another little technique that I used to use to get Cartesia out of the deck, is super useful. Played double patchwork along with the double polymerization, and that's it for the engine spells, so to speak. Now for the like non-engine or non-supportive spells, I played triple Allure of Darkness. Again, I didn't see this as much as I would have liked to. When I was going second, I basically just sided this card straight out and put in triple tactics talent. So it's good. It allows you to dig through your deck, and you can resolve multiples in 1 turn. So it's always good to see a couple of them, especially with Despian Tragedy, which I managed to pull off like once. So it was pretty good, can't complain. Triple Forbidden Droplet, because I was kind of focusing on going second and just basically going for the OTK, and obviously I've got Dark Ruler in the side, but Dark Ruler prevents you from OTKing your opponent. It blanks the field, which is always a good thing, but Forbidden Droplet allows you to OTK, and I did actually pull off a little bit of a combo with evenly matched in Forbidden Droplet, which was a nice feeling, to be honest. We also ran triple Super Poly. Again, this goes without saying, ladies and gents, just board breaker card. It came up a lot more than I thought. There was so much branded Despia Bestial in the room, ladies and gents. It was crazy. Like, I didn't really see any kind of rogue deck bar, I think it was Invoke Shadow, which is what I played. Everything else was literally meta. It was just like Runics, Sprites, Telements, and branded Bestial Despia. So Super Poly was always live just because of the nature of the decks. And then for the spicy one-offs, Duster and Core by the Grave. Just a mine out basically. I'd never leave home without it. And yeah, Core by the Grave. Onto the traps. I only played 4 traps in the main deck, with 3 of them being evenly matched in the main, as well as the branded banishment. Now, believe it or not, this is what allowed me to win a majority of the games, because
game one, a lot of my opponents don't have, obviously, unless you're playing a trap dedicated deck, they didn't have judgment. So evenly match was always live. Then when I looked at the T Elements board, their first game or their first turn, they don't necessarily set up the T Elements Crime. They have the Suliac and everything else, but they don't really have a trap negate bar the Burn Fleur. So I was obviously trying to combo this with Forbidden Droplets, or just bait a few negations, crash one of my monsters, and then evenly match at the end of battle phase. And that's what allowed me to kind of like just sneak a load of games, because it was very unexpected from my opponent, especially the Aldrich player, which I resolved evenly matched on him twice. It just blew him out of the water, which was crazy. And then Branded Banishment is just, it's a crazy card, absolutely silly. Next, onto the extra deck, ladies and gents. We played a double Mirror Jade as well as the one Lubellion. I did have two Lubellion in, but I found myself, because I'm going second and I was trying to win, I can always resolve a Lubellion when I'm ready. And typically you're going to shuffle himself back into to go into your second Mirror Jade, because you just kind of loop your Mirror Jade at your graveyard. But yeah, I didn't really miss the second Lubellion. I know some lists play two, but one seemed to work pretty fine with me. I played one Despian Querites and one Masquerade. I probably would put in another Masquerade. Double Masquerade against a T Elements. If you know you're playing against T Elements, it's almost an FTK. They can't really get enough going without killing themselves before they have to deal with the Masquerade. So it kind of panned out, to be honest. I also played one Despian Priscinian. Now this was a bit of a last minute just kind of like idea. And funnily enough, it did come up multiple times. I wasn't actually prepared to see so much Despia, but because I did, this card was just super live. It was absolutely ridiculous how live it was. Like, I'd normal summon a monster, I'd just not activate an effect, and then slam down Super Poly, and I'd clear a board. Like, it was crazy. I even used this to bring back somebody's DPE, which was just silly, and it's just big for no reason, and it just keeps recurring like monsters out of your opponent's graveyard. So it's a bit of a questionable tech, to be honest, but for me this weekend it seemed to pay dividends, so is what it is. One Titanic Clad, double Albion. I'd probably drop the Titanic Clad. The reason I left him in is because of towers like monsters, but nobody was playing anything rogue. There's no Ignisters, there's no big monster that was unaffected by everything. So Titanic Clad is a little bit less useful in that sense. It is another target, but it could just be the third Albion, which probably would have been better. We played one Albillenitus, did not see any Dragon Link, which would have been a good thing or a bad thing for them anyway, because obviously this deck against Dragon Link is like an FTK, especially if you just search Albaz, set it, and then contact fuse their board away. There's literally nothing they can do about it. And I also played the one Guardian Chimera. This could potentially be the Perskinian, but I only own one Guardian Chimera, so the Perskinian's a bit of a flex spot, but the Chimera is half decent. Then for the Super Poly targets, we played the obvious Dragostapelia. We played the Starving Venom, which came up more times than you would think, especially even with Kashchira in the format. I still managed to resolve the Starving Venom. One Garura as well as the one Mud Dragon. And that's it for the extra deck, ladies and gents. Now, I could potentially have put in Dark because I got Ibly locked against one of my opponents. I can't remember who it was. I think it was even the Sprite player, yeah. I got Ibly locked against him and that was rough. There's not a lot I could do, or the only out to the Ibly lock was a Forbidden Droplets, which I didn't see, so he managed to sneak that game for that reason. But yeah, it is what it is. And then very quickly I will show you my side deck, ladies and gents. So I did go and attempt to play the Rarlock, so I did side this in. I resolved this once, but with Bestials in the format, ladies and gents, this lock is bad. You can do it, you can summon from your banish zone, but if you don't always set that up, it's so fragile, like, and there's just so many other things you could do with like your branded fusion and your combos and all that kind of stuff, to not have to like rely on a Rarlock. However, when I did pull it off, I won the game. It was simple as that. It was like high risk, high reward. So yeah, two Rarlock. Wow, the two components of the Rarlock. Also played Triple Tactics Talents. Whoops, you know that's a Dark Rule. That's up next. Played Triple Tactics Talents. You know how it goes, ladies and gents. This is what I sided in for the Allure of Darkness. Triple Dark Ruler no more. I didn't side this in as much as I would like to, mainly because I always had droplets in, and again, the Tillements boards that I was going up against always had a crime set, and it's basically like an FTK board. Because I don't play any hand traps, they was able to just basically do whatever they wanted, so they resolved multiple things and just set up a crazy board. So it is what it is. I also played the one Dramaturge in the side, as well as the Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon, along with the Goddess of the Third Eye. I put this in specifically for any trap decks, but fortunately enough, the branded Outlich player that I came up against, I just didn't evenly match. I did side this in because this just deals with trap decks like it's nobody's problem. As well as the Goddess of the Third Eye. I was considering putting Dragoon in, which is probably something that I'd do going forward, because literally Dragoon can win games by itself. Triple Nibiru the Primal Being, as well as the one Tri-Brigade Mercuria. Again, it's nice to banish this off Allure, but Nib was definitely a wasted slot. Did not side it in once, didn't use it, it's bad in this format, sprites don't care about it. Tillements literally just play around it. Rukalos is just effectively just a no. So Nib was just basically a wasted slot. Every time I sided my cards, I looked at Nib and I just thought to myself, what a waste. But yeah, that was it, ladies and gents. So that's the side deck. So all in all, it was an interesting experience. I went with a few friends. It was good. We had a laugh. It was interesting to see the meta. And I think going forwards, I'm going to make a few refinements to the list and hopefully try and make it to locals and just see if I can kind of like compete with some of the Tillements boards, because at the moment Tillements is running away with the meta. The deck just does so much. It's nice to watch, it's interesting to play, but it just does way too much compared to some of the other decks, and especially with the amount of engines that you can splash in there and the nature of the deck, it's just obviously one of the tier 0 decks. And with the Ishizu stuff coming out, it's going to be very, very difficult to stop that deck. So all in all, it was an interesting experience. I enjoyed it. I played a deck that I liked. I could have played Tillements, but I liked Despia, so I played Despia and I enjoyed myself. So that is always the main thing. But anyway, ladies and gents, thanks for coming back. It has been a while. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you did, you know what to do by now. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, and I will definitely see you guys on the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.